Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm the museum educator at Capital Jewish Museum. Capital Jewish Museum is not open yet, but we're about to start building the museum, and today we're going to do the same thing together, only this museum is going to be all about you. To start, we're going to read The Museum of Me by Emma Lewis. Thank you to Tate Publishing for allowing us to share this book with all of you. This book is about a girl who lives in a city full of museums, just like Washington, D.C. Have you ever been to a museum in DC? What's your favorite? So all of the museums in this book are different and have lots of objects inside. Each of these objects tell a story. Let's read about her and what she sees and thinks about in the museums. The Museum of Me by Emma Lewis. Everyone says I'm going to love the museums. Museums are big buildings filled with the oldest and oddest things from all around the world. And there are lots of them. This place is enormous. It's the Museum of Ancient Artifacts. The things inside are thousands of years old and from thousands of miles away. And they all ended up here. Imagine who owned these pots and this cup or these animals, just like the ones in my toy box. Do you have animals in your toy box too? Are there animals other places in your house? In the Museum of Natural History, there are giant bugs and peculiar beasts. I don't know if I've ever seen something that looks like that before. I wonder what else is in this museum. Rooms of strange birds I've never seen before. Have you seen all of these birds before? And treasures found deep underground and far out at sea, brought back by fearless explorers. I know I've seen some of these seashells before when I've gone to the beach. But this is a collection that's not ancient or wild. The Museum of Art is neither of those. I'm seeing lots of different types of art already. And everybody here likes something different. I see some people staring at paintings of water and flowers. Some people are looking at portraits of people. This person's even carrying their own camera. And you know, not all museums are in big buildings. Have you seen museums in places that are not big buildings? I see some plants. I wonder where this one is. Oh, this one's outside. A museum in a garden. Even gardens can be museums. There are spiky palms and feathery leaves and flower heads as big as my own. A growing collection. So this museum is full of plants, not artifacts, not animals, not shells, not art, but plants, and they're growing. But museums don't have to be old at all. The Space Museum has all sorts of new things in it. What sorts of things do you see in this Space Museum? Have you been to a space museum before? I wonder what kind of museums they have up there. An endless number, an infinity to visit. But guess which collection is still left to see? Do you think there's anything that we haven't seen yet? One that's full of my favorite things. The museum I know best. The Museum of Me. She has a whole bunch of objects in her room that tell stories all about her. Just like the artifacts and the artwork and the plants told stories about all those other places. Do you see anything in her room that you have in yours? What do those things say about you? The end. The young girl's room was full of her own unique collection, and now it's time for us to think about our own collections. Remember, collections are pieces of objects or artwork or artifacts or plants that we can put together in one group to help tell a bigger story. Capital Jewish Museum has one large collection, but also smaller ones they put together to tell a specific story. Sometimes about an event, sometimes about a person, but they all tell a story. This is a collection of charms put on a bracelet. Celia Grossberg collected these charms in 1956 as a fundraiser for the Israeli Bonds Program. Each charm represents a tribe in Israel, and they have the names of them in English and in Hebrew. And when Celia wore this bracelet, she was proudly displaying her collection and sharing a bit about herself. I think it shows how proud she was of her Judaism, but also that she enjoyed helping others. I don't have charms or a bracelet like Celia's, but I do have a pin collection and a collection of postcards. I keep my postcards in a journal, and I write about the different places I've been and what I've seen and what I did when I was there. Sometimes I add other things to it as well, like tickets. I also collect pins from places I've traveled or of my favorite characters. These ones I'm already displaying in a case, but my journal is a little bit different. We're going to create our own collections that tell a story about us. We could use things like these Legos. These Legos show us that this person is really creative and loves to build and has a lot of interests. You can see there are cars and there are figures and there are even buildings. Everything that we make and how we sort it helps us tell a story about who we are. What do you want to talk about? What objects do you have laying in your house that you can use? It can be helpful to look at all of our objects together and then decide how exactly you want to display them. Here's a rock collection. I know that I've seen lots of rocks outside my house when I go for a walk. Maybe I want to display those and talk about how I like to spend my time with my family. Maybe I like to go to parks. Maybe I just like the way that they look. Let's think about how we might want to sort them. Do we want to put the big ones together, the small ones together? Do we want to sort them by color, or whether or not they shine? Or which ones were really hard to find on our walk? Which ones might be right outside our house? Sometimes we've already been collecting and displaying something like these seashells. These seashells tell a story about all the places that my friend Michelle has traveled. They even moved with her when she moved to Australia and moved back with her when she came to DC. She keeps them in this glass jar to remind her about every place she's been. Whatever you choose to collect, there are lots of ways you can display it. This is an example of 2 ways that we could show one postcard collection. They're all spread out or in a jar. What's most important is that you're coming up with a way to tell people something about you. So you've seen a whole bunch of our collections from the staff and the museum, but what do you collect? What story does that tell about you? Remember, your collection might show that you have a favorite color, or that you like to go to the beach, or you like to go to shows. Maybe it even shows that you like animals, or that you like to use a magnifying glass because you have lots of little things and you want to examine them closely. But does anyone else in your house also have a collection? Is there anything on display in your house? Maybe hanging on the walls? Or in a box or in a drawer? Go ahead and put a collection together and share it with someone in your house. And remember, I want to see what you collect. So ask a grown-up to take a picture and share it with me. Next week, we'll take another step in building our own museum. Can you guess what that is? I'll give you a hint. What do those do? Now, To see more about our collections, make sure you click the link in the bottom and it'll give you some documents that you can print out. Thanks for joining us as we build our own museums.